Have you ever felt that a silence speaks louder than 1,000 confessions? When time passes, and even without words, you know there was something there. Something that was left unsaid, something that could have changed everything. If he had had the courage to say it, but he didn't say it. And you learned to live with that. You learned to perceive the absence as part of his presence, as if the unspoken had become a home, as if his absence had learned to dwell within you. And the strangest thing is that he was still there, present in the details, in the way he looked at you, in how he listened to you, in the little gestures that nobody else noticed, but you did. You always noticed. It was as if his love shouted silently, shouted with his eyes, with the delays that weren't coincidences, with the messages that came for no reason, just to see if you were okay, with the interrupted phrases, with the hugs that lasted half a second longer than usual. He never admitted it, but he always felt it. And maybe deep down you knew too, but you stayed silent. Maybe from fear of ruining things, maybe out of pride, or because it hurt more to realize that he knew and yet remained quiet. How many times did you think, if he really loved me, he would have said it by now? But he loved you. He just couldn't find the words. Because repressed love has deep roots, and it grew from a soil where love meant pain. He learned early on that to give himself away was to lose himself. That loving was too dangerous, that those who feel too much get hurt by life. So he loved in secret. He kept you in a sacred corner of his soul, like someone hiding a treasure for fear of losing it, like someone who protects but never offers. And you felt it too, but you felt alone. How is it possible for two hearts to seek each other so much and never find one another? It was a silent dance, an almost relationship that never had a name, but always had a story. You thought about leaving so many times, thought about forgetting, but something was pulling you back. That what if, that empty space that only he filled, even in silence. And now, he spoke. Finally, after so much time, after so many goodbyes, after so many times you swore it would never happen again, he confessed, without beating around the bush, without excuses, without justifications. He just said, I have always loved you. But is there still time? Does the soul wait for something that took so long to reveal itself? Or is the love that arrives too late, no longer able to find a place? You know it's not just about hearing. It's about recognizing what was left behind, what shattered while you waited, what changed within you, because you are no longer the same. The weight transformed you, shaped you in silences, forged you in scars. He didn't say it before, but now he has. And that changes everything, or changes nothing. It depends on the courage he has now, because the love he didn't have the strength to live before will need even more strength to rebuild now. You remember everything, every moment he could have said, but didn't. Every time he let you go, even wanting to hold on, every time he heard you cry and stayed silent. But now he spoke, and when he spoke, you saw his eyes were trembling, his voice was low but firm. It was the truth. He loved you all along. And there, in that moment, the world stopped. Everything you imagined, dreamed, waited for, was right there. But with that came the weight of time. What to do with a love that arrived late? You already carried the marks of his absence. You had adapted to living without what you never fully had. You had learned not to wait, and now he wants to love you the right way. With words, with presence, with clear intentions. But what about you? Is there still space for that love inside you? Or did it arrive after everything had closed off? It's difficult, because the heart doesn't have an on and off switch. It holds on to what was, but it also protects itself from what might hurt again. You notice this. You realize that what holds you back now is not the lack of feeling, it's the abundance of memory. If this resonates with you so far, leave a comment. I needed to hear this because it's true. What hurts isn't just the love not lived, it's the love poorly lived, love that was never claimed, that hid behind fear, that left you confused, needy, in doubt. For so long, you deserved more, from the very beginning, and he knew that. But only now does he understand how much he lost you. He confessed, and maybe he thinks that's enough. But you know it's not enough. Confessing love is just the beginning. Living love is the hardest part. And you don't want promises. You want presence. You don't want empty words. You want consistency. He stands before you, right now, saying everything you ever wanted to hear, but you are trying to figure out if you can still believe. because he took his time. And time demands its toll, but the heart still beats stronger when he comes close, and you can't deny that, because despite everything, he still reaches you, even without touching, even after everything that silence built between you two. The most confusing part is this: you can't pretend nothing happened, but you also can't pretend it's still the same as before. You sense the conflict. You perceive the struggle between the desire to start over and the fear of being hurt again. You see that time doesn't erase everything. It only transforms. And maybe he has changed too. Maybe what he felt before was fear, but now it's urgency. Because he realized, late, but he realized that love waits for no one. He sees you with different eyes now. Not as that future chance he could keep for later, but as the last opportunity to experience something real. And you feel that. You sense in his gaze what you didn't feel before, presence, because now he is all in. But you don't know if you still have space. It's strange how time changes the roles. You wanted so much. You pleaded in silence for him to commit. You have already given yourself completely, even without receiving anything in return. And now that he's back, you're trying to figure out if you still want to take him back. Not out of vengeance, not out of pride, but for protection. You got hurt trying to love someone who wasn't ready. And today, you no longer give your heart on a whim. You've become discerning. You observe more. You notice nuances you once ignored. You now know that pretty promises don't hold a relationship together. What truly holds it is action. He said he loved you, but what is he going to do with that now? That's the question echoing inside you. Because words don't fill voids. They don't stitch up wounds. They don't bring back lost time. And yet, something in you still wants to believe. Not in the past, but in what still could be. You look at him and see a man trying to be what he wasn't. Trying to recover what he let slip away. Trying to reach you with a love that has always existed, but was never lived. That's what hurts and at the same time envelops you. The fact that he loved you, yes. He just didn't know how. And maybe he loved you more than he loved himself. And maybe that's why he sabotaged himself so much. Maybe that's why he stepped away. Because when love is too big for someone who still feels small, it turns into fear. It becomes self-sabotage. It becomes an escape. But now, he doesn't want to run away anymore. He wants to stay. He wants to build. He wants to mend. And for the first time, he's willing to do whatever it takes. But what about you? Can you open up the heart you've closed? Can you love without the fear of falling apart? Because loving someone who left you demands a different kind of strength. You realize this. You understand that the issue isn't forgiveness. It's trusting again. Trusting that this time will be different. Trusting that he will stay. Trusting that he will be everything you've always needed and never had. And to trust isn't simple, especially after so many no's, after so many silences, after so many times he was, but wasn't. You remember the moments. Do you remember when he looked at you as if he were about to say something, but never did? Do you remember the warm hugs, the vague excuses, the promises made with his body but never with his soul? All of that left marks, invisible marks, but too noticeable. And now he wants to rebuild on this cracked ground. Is it possible? You still don't know. But something inside you whispers, listen to what you feel. Because sometimes the heart holds answers that the mind has yet to understand. You realize it's not just about love, it's about maturity, about courage, about presence. He doesn't need to tell you that he loves you every day, but he needs to prove to you, through actions, that you are a priority. You're no longer swayed by promises. You're drawn to consistency, to respect, to truth. And maybe that's why now you are ready to listen. But just listen. No rush, no pressure, no expectations. Because you've realized that true love doesn't require haste. It requires daily presence. It requires comfortable silence. It requires a constant choice. And that's what he needs to understand. That you don't want a happy ending. You want a whole journey. A journey in which he walks by your side, even on cloudy days, even when fear returns, even when it's hard. You want real love. Love that doesn't need to shout or prove itself. Love that can be felt even in a distracted glance. Love that is recognized in stillness. He never told you this before, but now he is saying it. And even if it's late, you are listening. Not with your ears, but with your soul. Because true love, even when it doesn't arrive at the right time, still has the power to touch the right place. If this has happened to you, tell me in the comments. You are there. hearing him say everything, with your soul slightly open, but your heart on guard. And he is trying too, trying to recover, trying to rebuild, trying to understand what you needed to keep silent for so long. He didn't just come to ask for a chance. He came to show you that he has changed. And now, he realizes things he didn't see before. He notices the pain in your silence. He sees the strength it took to love alone. He understands how much he erred in trying to protect himself. And in the end, he hurt you. But he also notices that there's still something between you, something that, even if wounded, never died. He realizes this when he looks at you, when you look away, when you try to seem strong but your heart races. He notices, and that moves him, because now he doesn't want you to doubt anymore. He doesn't want you to carry the weight alone any longer. He doesn't want to be just a memory. He wants to be present, and he knows it won't be easy. He knows he'll have to fight for every piece of trust. He understands he'll need to be patient, consistent, genuine, but he's willing, finally. And maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of something new. Not of what you used to be, but of what you can still become. Because love that has not been lived, if it's true, does not die. It waits, even in silence. And when it finds space, it is reborn. But now, the choice is yours, and perhaps it's the hardest choice of your entire life, because it's no longer just about feelings. It's about everything that happened while you waited for those feelings to be acknowledged. Everything you felt alone, everything you cried silently, everything you built without him. You realize you're no longer that person you once were. You're not the one willing to lose yourself to fit in someone else's heart. You've remade yourself, and what he's trying to love now is no longer the same you. And that scares him, because he realizes he lost control, that he no longer has you the same way. That now, if he wants to stay, he'll have to earn it. And maybe this is the first time he truly feels that love isn't guaranteed just because there are feelings, that time demands its toll, that absence has consequences, that silence has a price. You always hoped he would say it, but now that he has, you need to understand if you still want to hear it, because there are truths that come too late to find the same heart. And this isn't about revenge, it's about inner justice, about emotional balance, about effective dignity. You know what you deserved, and you know what you didn't have. And now that he finally realizes, you wonder if there's still room for that love. And the most confusing part of all, you still feel, you still beat, you still get emotional. But feeling is not the same as returning. Feeling doesn't mean forgetting everything. Feeling doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. You can feel and still choose not to reopen the door, or you can choose to open it, but slowly. In the time of the soul, in the time of the body, in the time of the truth, he is there, looking at you as if he finally sees, as if he notices the details he previously ignored, as if he understands belatedly the depth of what you felt, and you notice in his gaze a mix of pain and hope, pain for everything he lost, hope that there's still a chance. But now, the choice is on this side, in your silence, in your rhythm, in your limits. And it doesn't matter how much he wants to rush the process, you'll move at your own pace. Because those who love late need to learn to love slowly. They need to respect the healing time. They need to acknowledge the broken places before wanting to live in them. They need to understand that their pain also has a voice, and that voice can no longer be ignored. You spent too much time silencing what you felt, swallowing love that never came, accepting emotional crumbs as if they were feasts, but not anymore. Now you have clarity, and even if you still love, you no longer erase yourself. This is what he finds now, a heart still warm but firm. You ask yourself, does he really want to love you, or does he want to relieve his guilt? Because there is a huge difference between love and remorse, and you no longer accept confusion. He needs to prove it, he needs to stay, he needs to be stable, secure, present. And he knows this. He knows that now it's not enough to just say it. That's why he doesn't pressure, he just stays, gradually, with patience, with honesty, and you start to notice something new. He's different, not in his words, but in his posture, in the way he listens to you, in how he respects your silences. He doesn't pressure you, he doesn't manipulate you, he doesn't rush you, he simply stays, as if he finally understands that loving also means waiting, that loving also means respecting the ruins before wanting to build. That loving is about being there, even when the other is still uncertain, and that touches you in a new way, more mature, more at ease, deeper. You realize that perhaps there's still a path forward, not a repetition of what was, but a new beginning, this time with honesty. Because love that hasn't been lived, if it still lives, can be rewritten, but not without honesty, not without maturity, not without emotional integrity. You notice that there's something in you that wants to try, not because you've forgotten what hurt, but because you desire something that's worth more than the pain, the building. And he seems willing to build, not just to have you, but to be with you. And this is the love you've always wanted, not a love of urgency, but a love that stays in the everyday, that looks into your eyes, that asks how you are and listens, that doesn't give up at the first conflict, that grows together. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel rushed, because now time is on your side and love only flourishes where there is peace. You want peace, and he notices it. He doesn't talk about it, but shows it. He shows it when he doesn't try to explain himself all the time. He shows it when he takes responsibility for the silences he's had. He shows it when he accepts that perhaps you need more time than he thought. You realize he's really there, and that moves you. It doesn't force you, it doesn't pressure you, but it touches you. And you start to look at him with new eyes, no longer as someone begging for love, but as someone who already knows what they deserve. And maybe, just maybe, he's finally worthy of that. But everything is still open. You don't decide right away. You observe. You listen to yourself. You embrace what you feel without needing to justify it. And that is already freedom. He never gave you this before, but now he's offering it to you, not promises, but space. And you know when there's space, there's possibility. You still feel, but now you feel with awareness, with clarity, with emotional responsibility. It's no longer a blind love, it's a lucid love, or maybe a love in recovery, and that is beautiful too. Because love that goes through death and comes back stronger, or dies for good. But yours, you feel, still breathes between pauses, between fears, between memories, but it breathes, and you choose not to smother it, not to rush it, not to romanticize it, just to feel, with calm, with care, with presence. Because now you've learned to perceive yourself, and that changes everything. This conversation doesn't end here. In the next video, the truth will come to light. I'll see you there.